Welcome to the first online Decode video lesson. Now this lesson is going to be the first in a series where we will cover game development in Flash. To write these games, we'll be using a programming language called ActionScript 3, and alongside this, we're using a library called FlashPunk, which is a great library that makes game development in Flash really easy and really simple, which is perfect for the task at hand. So in this lesson, we're going to be setting everything up, setting up our project, installing FlashPunk, and so next time, when we come back, we'll be able to get right into making games, and it'll be really, really easy. So at this point, it's worth noting that I'm using Windows 8.1, and to write in Flash, I'm going to be using FlashDevelop. Now, in the documentation for this video, there are some instructions on how you can get set up with FlashDevelop on Windows. If you're on a different operating system, there are alternatives, but we don't have time to go through them at the moment. Again, check the documentation of the video for more information. So we're going to head right into FlashDevelop. And the first time you open FlashDevelop, you'll get a screen similar to this. You'll see the start page on your left and a blank project panel on your right telling you that you need to open or create a new project before you can get to work. And making a project is really important because that's what encompasses your entire game. And that's what we're going to be working with. So we're going to make a new project. So you go up to the top here, you click project, and then you click new project. Now when you get into here, you're confronted with a whole bunch of options. First is what kind of project we want to make. What we want to make is an AS3 project. And we want to give it a name then. I'm going to call it Decode Game, but you can call it whatever you want. I'm just saving it to my documents folder. But make sure you have this create directory for project ticked. Otherwise you get files all over the place and it won't be pleasant. So I'm going to hit up OK and then give it a little bit of time and it'll make your project. And instead of a blank project panel here, now I've got some information. You've got 3 folders that are made in your project, and the one that we're interested in is this SRC folder, which stands for source, as in source code. And in there, there's a file. Now, Flash is what's called an object-oriented language. AS3 is, which means when you're running things in Flash, there are lots of objects in the background, and each object has a specific role to play in the task at hand. Now, when you have these objects, you need to have something that will define them, a blueprint for these objects. And that's where this idea of classes come in. And with ActionScript, each file represents a different class. Each file represents a different blueprint for a different object. So this main.as file represents the blueprint for the thing that runs everything, the main thing that gets run at the beginning. So that's the role of this main object. Now, there are already objects written out in ActionScript and in Flash that we can actually access. And when I've opened up this main.as file, you'll notice that there are these import statements here. Now they're basically saying, import something that's been written before, so we can use it and make advantage of someone who's already been smart and written some code for us. There's no point in reinventing the wheel. So we've imported the sprite class and this event class. And when we define our class by, which is written as public class main, which says we're going to make a new class, we're going to call it main, we're actually also writing extends sprite, which is saying base this new main class on the sprite class that has existed before. And inside there is all the stuff that we put inside our class, all the functions and all the variables and things like that that we want to access. And what we want to take note of is this entry point here, this commented out line. Now, when you have code and a program, your entry point is where things start. Everything before then is sort of background stuff leading up to it. But where this entry point is where we can actually start writing code and start writing interesting stuff. So I just hit enter to make a new line after that entry point. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually write something out. And I'm going to write trace, opening bracket, double quote, and then I could write hello world, but I'm not going to. I'm going to write I am so happy to be here today. Then another double quote, and then closing bracket, and then a semicolon. Now, what I've just done is I've written out a function called trace, and I've sent to it as an argument this string of characters. Now, this is a little bit of simple code. We're just going to make sure everything's working in this case. So once you've written what you want to write, you can put anything in there. I'm going to hit this play button up the top here. It says test project, and it'll take a little bit of time to compile because ActionScript is a compiled language, and we just give it some time, and then it'll put it together into a neat little Flash package, and hey presto, we've got a blank window up here, which isn't very interesting. Now the reason that it's blank is because we haven't actually told Flash what to put in it. We haven't told it to draw anything. We haven't told it to make interesting stuff happen on the screen. So of course it's just going to appear white and default. But that doesn't matter so much. But down the bottom here, you'll see the text, "I am so happy to be here today," which is what the trace function does. It takes the argument that you give it and puts it out to the console, which is a really good way of checking that your code is working. So that's a good step in the right direction. So I'll close that and we can get to work. Now, something may have gone wrong when you tried to run it. It may not have worked at all. So here are a few troubleshooting tips you want to check for. We'll go into a little bit of detail on them right now, but again, check the documentation of the video for more information. So if you go to Tools and then Program Settings, you'll be able to get a whole bunch of settings for FlashDevelop. But what we're looking for is the first one is that it can't find the Flash player. So if you type player into filter settings and go to Flash Viewer, you'll see external player path and then a string to a player. Or you might not see anything at all. If you don't see anything at all, that's when you want to go and click here and actually point towards another Flash player. But mine's fine at the moment. Another thing that can go wrong is that it can't find the Flex SDK, which is an important little bit of software that Adobe has made that allows other programs to make Flash applications. So if I hit this thing up here and I see that I've got a Flex SDK installed, that's great. It's usually in the same directory as your FlashDevelop folder. So that's local tool/Flex SDK. So that's fine for me, but you might not have anything there. So you've got to make sure you find it or download it. Again, check the documentation for a little bit more information on that if you're having trouble. So at this stage, we know that Flash is working fine. We know that we don't run into any problems. So what we can do now is actually get started and try and find FlashPunk. So I'm going to bring up Google here, and in it, into Google, I'm going to type FlashPunk, because I'm going to look for FlashPunk. Oops, 2 Ks. Down. And once you go to FlashPunk, use flashpunk.net, you want to click this Get FlashPunk button, which will give you a GitHub page with a download, and you want to hit source code as a zip. Once that's downloaded, we'll give it a little bit of time. And you can open it, and then you're given a zipped folder. Now, once I have opened it, I first need to extract it. I can close this now. I first need to extract it, so I'll click Extract All, and then just use the default options, wait for it to finish, and it'll take out all the contents of the zip folder and put it as a normal folder. So in here, I want to go into the FlashPunk folder, and then what I'm interested in is this net folder, because that's where all the FlashPunk code is. So I'll just drag net right into my source folder in FlashDevelop, like that. And just like that, we've got all of the FlashPunk code to access. Now you can see there's a whole lot of .as files that do a whole lot of different stuff. And we'll get into that in a bit. Right now, we're going to start by changing our main class a little bit. We're going to get rid of everything. And we're going to write some new code. Now, instead of importing sprite or event, we're going to import engine. Now, the autocomplete of FlashDevelop will work out that what I'm looking for is net.flashpunk.engine, and once it's sort of worked that out, you can see that menu that's come down the bottom when I've typed engine. I can hit enter, and it'll fill it in for me, which saves a whole lot of time. So we're going to type out something familiar after that import. Public class main extends engine, and then we're going to make a new line, put those curly braces in, and we've defined a class to an extent. Now, instead of extending sprite, we're extending engine, and that's a really important note to make here. What the engine class does is, it's like the engine, what you expect an engine of a car to do. It keeps things going, it keeps things under control, and it keeps moving forward so the game can actually keep moving forward, because that's really important for a game. You know, there's constantly being there's constant calculations being executed, things being drawn 30, 60, 100 times per second. So it's really important that there's something managing all of that. Now, in this class definition, we're going to write our constructor, which is the code that gets executed when the class is first made. So I'm going to type out public function main 2 brackets and then opening curly brace, and then press enter, and it'll put in the second one for me, the closing one. Now in here, I'm going to type in a bit of code. I'm going to type out super, which is an interesting little function, and it means execute the constructor of the super class. So that engine class that we've extended from, we're actually accessing code from it now, and we'll steal some code from it. That was interesting. Okay, so we're going to pass some arguments to the super function. So we're going to go width. That's the width of our game. We want 800 pixels, don't we? Naturally, the second argument is height, and we want 600 pixels of height. And this third argument is frame rate. I think we're going to go for 30, but you can type whatever you want to there. Bear in mind, if you put too high a frame rate, things will lag. So I'm going to save that and then hit play. Takes a little bit of time to compile, but that's okay. Now, we've actually made some progress here. Instead of that white background we saw before, we've got this sort of dark gray color, which is the default background color of FlashPunk. So now that we've seen this, we know that FlashPunk is actually working, and that's great. So we've achieved our goal here, which is to set up FlashPunk, install it, so when we come back next time, we can actually start installing games. So thank you for watching this, and tune in next time where we can actually make some really cool games. That's all for today. Thank you.